I used to think the house always wins was just a saying, a catchy little phrase they tossed around to keep the gamblers hopeful. But I know better now. I've seen the gears behind the glitter, the tricks stitched into every spin, every deal, every roll of the dice. I was part of it. Me, a woman who once swore she'd never cheat anyone, who thought a job in a casino was just a paycheck with a side of glamour. I was wrong, so wrong, and what I helped them do, it still wakes me up at night, my hands shaking, my heart pounding like I'm still standing on that polished floor, watching someone lose everything. I'm telling you this now, breaking every promise I made to stay silent, because someone has to know. Someone has to understand what they're really walking into when they step through those doors. It's been 3 years since I walked away, 3 years since I traded the clatter of slot machines and the flash of neon for a quiet life I don't deserve. But back then, I was in deep, deeper than I ever meant to go. I'd stand there, my heels clicking on marble, my smile plastered on, watching men and women pour their savings into games I knew weren't fair. And I didn't just watch, I helped rig them. Every beep of a jackpot, every cheer from a table, it was a lie, orchestrated down to the last detail, and I was one of the hands pulling the strings. You'd think I'd feel powerful, standing on the inside of that machine, but all I felt was dirty. Dirty and trapped, like the air itself was coated in something I couldn't scrub off. The first time I saw it happen, really saw it, I almost quit. A man in a cheap suit, his eyes bright with hope, feeding a slot machine like it was his lifeline. I'd calibrated that thing myself, tweaked the code just enough to let him win a little, then bleed him dry. He didn't know, how could he? He thought it was luck, thought the bells and lights meant he was special. But I knew the truth. I knew the numbers, the percentages, the exact moment it'd turn on him. When he walked away that night, shoulders slumped, wallet empty, I felt sick. I wanted to run after him, scream that it wasn't his fault, but I didn't. I stayed quiet, kept my head down, told myself it was just a job. That's what we all told ourselves, me, the techs, the dealers, all of us pretending we weren't ruining lives one spin at a time. Now, sitting here, spilling this out. I don't know if I'm brave or just desperate. Maybe both. I've got no proof left. They made sure of that when I left. But I've got my story, my truth, and it's more than I can carry alone anymore. What did we do behind those velvet curtains? How did we sleep at night knowing we were stealing more than money, stealing hope, trust, entire futures? I don't have all the answers, not yet. But if you've ever set foot in a casino, if you've ever felt that rush, you need to hear this. Because it's not just a game, it's a trap, and I helped build it. How do you live with that kind of guilt? I'm still trying to figure it out. Before it all went wrong, before the guilt settled into my bones like a permanent ache, my life was simple, predictable, even. I was just another face in the crowd, a 32-year-old woman trying to scrape by in a city that chewed up dreams and spat them out. Las Vegas wasn't my home, not originally, but it's where I landed after college, chasing a vague idea of something better. I'd grown up in a small town, the kind with one stoplight and a diner where everyone knew your name, a place where the biggest scandal was Mrs. Carter's cat getting stuck in a tree again. Back then, I was quiet, bookish, the girl who'd rather read about adventures than live them. But by the time I hit my late 20s, that girl was gone, replaced by someone tougher, someone who'd learned that life doesn't hand you anything unless you grab it. I'd bounced around jobs, waitress, retail clerk, a brief stint at a call center that nearly broke me before the casino gig came along. It was 2018, and I was living in a cramped apartment off the strip, the kind with thin walls and a landlord who didn't care about the flickering lights. My days were a blur of coffee and bills, my nights spent scrolling job boards, hoping for a way out. I wasn't glamorous, no sequin dresses or big dreams of hitting it rich. I wore faded jeans, kept my dark hair in a messy bun, and carried a chipped mug that said, "World's Okayest Sister," a gag gift from my brother back home. That was me, ordinary, unremarkable, just trying to keep my head above water. So when the casino called, it felt like a lifeline. The ad was vague, tech support specialist, gaming industry, competitive pay, but I applied anyway. I'd taken a few coding classes in college, enough to fake my way through an interview, and I figured it'd be fixing slot machines or troubleshooting ATMs, nothing fancy. The call came a week later, a smooth-talking guy named Tony who said I'd be perfect, no experience needed, just a sharp mind and a willingness to learn. The pay was double what I'd ever made, enough to ditch the leaky apartment, maybe even save a little. I said yes before he finished the pitch, my voice shaky with relief. A job at the Silver Oasis Casino. It sounded almost magical, like stepping into a movie. I pictured myself behind the scenes, a small cog in a big, shiny machine, helping keep the lights on. How hard could it be? My first day was a whirlwind. I walked through the employee entrance, a plain door around back, hidden from the tourists, and into a world I'd only seen from the outside. The casino floor was alive, a symphony of bells, laughter, the clink of chips on felt. The air smelled of perfume and cigarette smoke, the lights so bright they drowned out the desert sun. I wore a borrowed blazer that didn't quite fit, my name tag pinned crooked, Rachel, technical staff, and followed a manager through the chaos. He was a wiry guy with slicked back hair, barking orders into a headset, barely glancing at me as he rattled off my duties. "You'll be in the back, working the systems," he said. "Keep the games running. Don't ask questions. Don't touch the money." Simple enough, I thought. I'd fix bugs, swap cables, maybe chat with the dealers on break. It felt exciting, like I'd finally landed somewhere that mattered. Back home, I'd call my mom every Sunday, her voice crackling through the line as she asked about my fancy new job. I'd laugh, tell her it was nothing special, just tech stuff, but I liked the way it sounded, the way it made me feel less like a failure. My brother sent a text, "Don't gamble away your paycheck, sis," and I rolled my eyes, promising I wouldn't. I wasn't a gambler, never had been. I liked control, predictability, the comfort of knowing what came next. The casino was just a job, a loud, flashy job, but it was mine. I'd come home each night, my ears ringing from the noise, my hands smelling faintly of metal and wires, and collapse onto my thrift store couch with a glass of cheap wine. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. For the first time in years, I felt like I was building something, a life, a future. That's how it started, a steady rhythm of days and nights, the hum of the casino seeping into my routine. I'd watch the players sometimes, their faces lit up with hope or hollowed out by loss, and feel a strange mix of pity and detachment. They were strangers, their stories none of my business. I was just there to keep the wheels turning, or so I thought. Looking back, I see it now, how naive I was, how blind. That ordinary life, that fragile little world I'd built, it was already cracking, even then. I just didn't know it yet. The Silver Oasis wasn't a lifeline. It was a trap, and I was walking right into it, step by unsuspecting step. How could I have known what was waiting, what I'd become a part of? I'd been at the Silver Oasis for about 3 months when it happened, that first little crack in the shiny surface of my new life. Up until then, everything felt routine, exhausting, sure, but predictable. I'd clock in at 6, slip into the back rooms where the tech crew huddled, and spend my shifts buried in wires and screens. The casino floor was a world away, a glittering blur I'd glimpse through double doors, all laughter and chaos while I stayed in the shadows, tweaking systems, rebooting machines. It was oddly comforting, the hum of the servers, the flicker of code on my monitor, the way no one bothered me as long as the games kept running. I was good at it, too, better than I expected. My hands learned the dance of circuits and software, and for the first time in years, I felt useful, like I belonged somewhere. That night, though, that night was different. It was a Thursday, late, past midnight, when the crowds thinned out and the air got heavy with desperation. I was in the control room, a cramped space tucked behind the slots, surrounded by monitors that glowed blue in the dark. My job was simple, keep an eye on the network, make sure nothing crashed. I had a lukewarm coffee in one hand, my headset loose around my neck when I noticed it, a glitch. One of the slot machines, number 47, kept spiking, payouts too frequent, too big. Not jackpot level, but enough to raise an eyebrow. I frowned, Tapped my screen. The data didn't add up. Machines don't just give like that, not here, not ever. I'd seen the specs. Every game was Loctite, programmed to tease, not reward. So why was 47 acting like it had a mind of its own? I pulled up the logs, my fingers moving fast across the keyboard. Numbers scrolled by, timestamps, bets, wins, and there it was, a pattern, faint but real. Every hour, almost on the dot, it'd pay out, small amounts, steady, like clockwork. My stomach twisted, not much, just a flicker of unease. Could be a bug, I told myself, a line of code gone rogue. I'd fixed dozens of those, no big deal. But something about it, something felt off. I glanced at the security feed, a grainy shot of the floor. Machine 47 sat in a corner, its lights flashing, no one around it. Empty. Who was playing it? I checked the player ID blank. No card swiped, no cash logged, just wins, piling up in the system like ghosts were spinning the reels. I took a sip of coffee, the bitterness sharp on my tongue, and told myself to let it go. Glitches happen, systems hiccup. But then I heard it, a sound from the hall outside, soft but unmistakable, a low beep, like a badge scanner tripping. My head snapped up. No one came back here this late. The techs were off shift, the managers out front. I set my mug down, the clink loud in the silence, and leaned toward the door. Nothing, just the faint buzz of the casino seeping through the walls. I waited, breath held, and there it was again. Beep. Closer now. My pulse kicked up, not fear, not yet, just a prickle of nerves. I wasn't alone. Someone was out there, moving through the locked corridors where no one should have been. I stood, my chair scraping the floor, and edged toward the door. It had a small window, fogged with grime. I wiped it with my sleeve, peering out. The hall was dim, lined with pipes and flickering fluorescents, and then I saw her. A woman, tall, sharp-suited, her hair pulled tight in a bun. She wasn't staff, no badge, no uniform, but she moved like she owned the place, her heels silent on the tile. She stopped at a panel, punched in a code, and a door I'd never noticed slid open, spilling cold light into the shadows. My breath caught. That wasn't on the blueprints. I'd studied them, mapped every inch of this place. What was she doing? Where was she going? She vanished inside, the door sealing shut behind her, and I stood there, frozen, my hand still on the glass. My mind raced. Maybe she was maintenance, security, but no, the way she moved, the secrecy of it, it didn't fit. I glanced back at my screen, machine 47 blinked, quiet now, like it knew I was watching. A shiver ran down my spine, small, fleeting, but real. I didn't understand it then, didn't want to, but something was wrong. Not just with the machine, with this place. I sank back into my chair, the coffee cold in my hands, and told myself it was nothing, just a late-night fluke. But deep down, I knew I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to. And that feeling, that tiny, nagging itch, wouldn't let me go. That night stuck with me, clung to me like damp air after a storm. I didn't sleep much, couldn't, really, my mind replaying the glitch on machine 47, that woman in the hall, the door that shouldn't have been there. By morning, my coffee was cold again, my eyes gritty, but I dragged myself back to the silver oasis like nothing had happened. The casino greeted me the same as always, lights flashing, bells ringing, the hum of voices blending into a wall of sound. I forced a smile, nodded at the floor staff, and slipped into the control room, my little cave of screens and cables. But it didn't feel safe anymore, not like it used to. Something had shifted, and I couldn't shake the itch to figure out what. I started with the logs, pulled up everything I could on 47. My fingers flew over the keyboard, the clatter loud in the quiet. Too loud, maybe. The data was there, same as before, those steady payouts every hour, like a heartbeat in the system. But now I noticed something else. The wins weren't random. They clustered, tiny bursts, always between midnight and 3 a.m., when the floor was half empty. I cross-checked the security logs. No player IDs, no cash-ins, nothing to tie those wins to a person. My throat tightened. Machines don't play themselves. Someone was triggering this. But who? And why? I leaned back, chewing my lip, the glow of the monitor washing my face in blue. It could have been a test run, a maintenance quirk. But that door, that woman kept nagging at me, whispering that this was bigger than a bug. I didn't stop there, couldn't, even if I wanted to. I started really watching the rhythms of the place. During my breaks, I'd linger near the slots, sipping watery soda from a plastic cup, eyes scanning the crowd. Machine 47 sat there, innocent enough, its lights winking like it was mocking me. No one played it much, not during the day anyway, but every so often I'd catch a flicker on my screen, a payout logged when no one was near it. I'd glance up, half expecting that woman in the suit to appear, but she didn't. Not then. Instead, I noticed the staff, the way the dealer's smiles tightened when I asked about the back rooms, the way the techs avoided my eyes during shift changes. They knew something, or maybe they didn't, and I was just paranoid. Either way, the air felt thicker now, heavier with secrets I couldn't name. One afternoon, I got bold, too bold, maybe. I was in the break room, flipping through a manual, when I overheard two floor managers talking, their voices low, clipped, drifting over the hum of the vending machine. "They're running it tonight," one said, a guy with a mustache and tired eyes. "Same as last week?" the other asked a woman, sharp-faced, her nails tapping her coffee mug. Mustache nodded. "Keep it quiet, no fuss." I froze, my sandwich halfway to my mouth. Running what? I waited, barely breathing, but they clammed up when they saw me, their eyes flicking over like I'd caught them stealing. I mumbled something about the weather, shoved my food down, and bolted back to my station. My hands shook as I typed, not from fear, not yet, but from that spark, that need to know. Late that night, I stayed past my shift, told myself I was just catching up. The control room was empty, the casino winding down beyond the walls. I pulled up the live feed, every camera, every angle, and watched. Machine 47 blinked, steady, quiet. Then, at 1:13 a.m., it hit, a payout, $50, logged clean. I snapped to the footage, no one there. Just an empty stool, shadows pooling under the lights. My heart thudded, slow, hard. I rewound the tape, 5 minutes, 10, and there she was. That woman again, suit crisp, hair taut, slipping out of that hidden door. She didn't touch the machine, didn't even look at it, just walked past, her stride smooth, deliberate. The payout hit the second she passed, like a signal, a switch flipped from somewhere else. I sat back, breath shallow, my headset dangling around my neck. This wasn't a glitch, it was intentional. Controlled. My mind spun. Was it a scam? A test? Something worse? I checked the door on the feed again. Still there, still wrong. A blank spot in the system maps I'd memorized. I could have reported it, should have, maybe. But who'd believe me? And who'd I tell? The managers? The techs who wouldn't meet my gaze? I rubbed my eyes, the screen blurring, and realized I was in over my head. Not drowning, not yet, but wading into something dark, something I didn't understand. That woman, that machine, they were pieces of a puzzle, and I was starting to see the edges. What was I walking into, and why couldn't I stop? I'd been chasing shadows for weeks, piecing together scraps, convincing myself I could stop anytime. But that night in late November, with the desert wind howling outside and the casino humming its endless song, I found it. The truth, the real, ugly truth about what we were doing at the Silver Oasis. It wasn't a hunch anymore, not a glitch or a gut feeling. It was cold, hard proof, staring me in the face from a screen I'd hacked into, my hands trembling so bad I could barely hold the mouse. I didn't want to believe it. God, I didn't. But once I saw it, once I knew, there was no unseeing it, no pretending I could go back to my quiet little life behind the controls. It started with a mistake, or maybe it wasn't a mistake at all. Maybe it was fate, pushing me over the edge. I'd stayed late again, the control room dark except for my monitor's glow, my coffee long gone cold. I'd been digging deeper than I should have, into the system logs, chasing that woman, those payouts, that door. I'd gotten good at covering my tracks, rerouting access, masking my searches. But this time, I went too far, cracked a firewall I didn't even know existed, slipped into a server labeled oversight. My screen flickered, lines of code, encrypted files, folders I didn't recognize. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the exit key, but that itch, that damn curiosity, pulled me in. I clicked, and everything changed. The first file was a spreadsheet, names, dates, dollar amounts. Hundreds of them, thousands, maybe. I scrolled, my breath shallow. Players, regulars, their bets tracked down to the cent. But it wasn't just wins and losses, there were notes. High risk, target, drain. My stomach churned. I knew some of those names, faces I'd seen on the floor, laughing, losing, coming back night after night. Next to each was a code, a machine number. 47 popped up again, and again. I opened another file, a memo, timestamped 6 months back. Adjust payout ratios, maintain illusion of chance, isolate high rollers for extended play. My head spun. This wasn't random. They were targeting people, specific people, rigging the games to hook them, bleed them dry. But that wasn't the worst of it. Not even close. I found the videos, grainy, timestamped, tucked in a subfolder marked Observation. I clicked one and froze. It was machine 47, the corner of the floor, quiet. A man sitting there, middle-aged, his tie loose, his hands shaking as he fed in bills. I'd seen him before, a regular, always smiling, always hopeful. The footage sped up. Hours and seconds, his pile of chips shrinking, his face crumpling. Then, a flash on the screen, the payout hit, just enough to light up his eyes. He kept going, and the cycle repeated. Another video, a woman, older, her purse clutched tight, the same dance of hope and ruin. My chest tightened. I clicked another, then another, dozens of them, all the same. Faces I knew, lives I'd watched unravel, and we'd orchestrated it. Every spin, every win, a lie. I pushed back from the desk, my chair screeching, my breath ragged. This wasn't just tweaking odds. This was a system, a machine of its own, built to destroy. I opened one last file, audio this time, a recording from a meeting I'd never been invited to. Voices. Tony, the guy who'd hired me, and that woman in the suit. Keep the targets locked in, she said, her tone clipped, cold. 47's our anchor. Tweak it for maximum retention. Tony laughed, and replied, they'll never know. We've got the techs on it. My techs, me. I'd done this, calibrated those machines, adjusted those ratios, all while thinking I was just fixing bugs. My hands, my work, it was in their blood now. I sat there, staring at the screen, the hum of the casino fading to a dull roar in my ears. My reflection stared back, pale, hollow, a stranger. They weren't just rigging games, they were rigging lives, breaking people down to numbers, to profits. And I'd helped. Every day, every shift, I'd tightened the screws on a trap I didn't even see. My stomach lurched, I stumbled to the trash can, dry heaving, the taste of bile sharp in my throat. How many had I hurt? How many families torn apart because of me? I wiped my mouth, tears stinging my eyes, and realized I couldn't stop now. I'd found the truth, but what the hell was I supposed to do with it? Run? Fight? Pretend I didn't know? That question burned, and it wouldn't let me go. After finding those files, I couldn't think straight. The control room felt too small, too quiet, and I was stuck there, alone with what I'd learned. I'd turned off the monitor fast, like that would make it go away, but it didn't. The voices from the recording, Tony's laugh, that woman's orders, kept playing in my head. The videos of those players losing everything. I couldn't stop seeing them either. I started pacing, my shoes loud against the floor, trying to figure out what to do. I wanted to yell or hit something, but I just stood there, feeling trapped. The casino noise came through the walls, bells, chatter, and it made everything worse, like it was mocking me. My shift had ended hours ago. It was past 2 a.m., and I should have gone home, but I couldn't. My apartment seemed too far, too empty, and I was scared of what might happen if I left. What if they knew I'd hacked in? What if they'd seen my breach? I sat back down, staring at the blank screen, my hands sweaty. I'd always been careful, good at my job, good at staying out of trouble, but this was different. I'd gone into their system, found their secrets, and now I was a problem. They wouldn't just let me quit. Not after this. My breathing got fast. I realized I might be in real danger, and it wasn't just about losing my job. Then the door beeped loud, sudden, and I jumped. Mike walked in, one of the other techs. He was tall, kind of sloppy, always slouching. "Still here?" he asked, sounding normal, but he looked at me too long. I tried to smile. "Yeah, just wrapping up," I said, my voice weak. He nodded, then leaned against the wall, hands in his pockets. "Rough night?" he asked. I shrugged, messing with my jacket. Something like that. He didn't say anything else, just kept standing there, watching. My heart sped up. Did he know something? Was he checking on me? I grabbed my bag and stood. "Heading out. See you tomorrow," I said, walking past him quick. He didn't stop me, but I felt him staring as I left. The halls were dark, lights flickering, and I moved fast, keeping my head down. The casino floor was still going lights, noise, but I didn't look. I needed to get out, clear my head. Then I saw her, the woman in the suit, by the employee exit, talking on her phone. She didn't notice me, but I panicked, ducked into a supply closet, and shut the door. I heard her heels pass by, close, too close. I stood there, back against the wall, breathing hard. The closet smelled like bleach, and my bag was heavy in my arms. She kept showing up, always where I didn't expect her. Was she following me? Did they suspect I knew? I slid down to sit, my legs shaky. I'd found proof they were ruining people, targeting them, rigging the machines, and I'd helped do it. If I told someone, like the police or a reporter, I'd have to admit my part. I'd lose everything, my job, my reputation. But if I stayed quiet, kept working, I'd be part of it for real, not just by accident. More people would lose their money, their homes, because of me. My hands shook. I covered my face, trying to calm down. I didn't know how many I'd already hurt, and that made it worse. Then I heard footsteps outside, quiet, slow. They stopped right by the door. I held my breath, watching a shadow under the gap. Someone was there, just standing. My chest pounded. Had Mike said something? Were they looking for me? The shadow stayed a minute, then moved away. I let out a breath, shaky, almost crying. I wasn't safe here anymore. Leaving could get me caught. Talking could ruin me. Staying meant living with the guilt. I didn't have an answer, just the fear, growing bigger every second, and a choice I couldn't avoid. I couldn't hide in that closet forever. My legs cramped, my back stiff from sitting on the cold floor, but the fear kept me there longer than I planned. It was pushing 3 a.m., and the casino's noise had dulled to a low hum beyond the walls. I knew I had to move. Staying still wasn't safe anymore. Not after what I'd found. Not with Mike watching me and that woman lurking. My bag was heavy in my lap, my phone dead in my pocket. No one to call, no easy way out. I stood up slow, joints popping, and pressed my ear to the door. Silence, or close enough. I had to decide right then what I was going to do with this mess I'd uncovered. Run, report it, or pretend I never saw those files. My stomach knotted. Every option felt like a trap. I cracked the door open, peeked out. The hall was empty, lights dim, air stale. I slipped out, keeping my steps quiet, heading for the control room. If I was going to do something, I needed proof. Something solid, not just my word against theirs. My heart pounded as I swiped my badge, the beep loud, too loud, and stepped inside. The room was how I'd left it. Monitor off, coffee cup still on the desk. I locked the door behind me, hands shaky, and powered up the system. The screen flickered on. I typed fast, pulling up the oversight server again. The files were still there, spreadsheets, videos, that memo, and I started downloading them to a USB drive from my bag. It was risky, stupid, maybe, but I couldn't leave empty-handed. The progress bar crawled, 20%, 30%, and every second felt like an hour. I kept glancing at the door, expecting it to burst open. Then I heard it, footsteps, heavy, coming down the hall. My chest tightened. I muted the computer, ducked low behind the desk. The door beeped, someone swiped a badge, but the lock held. A knock followed, sharp, impatient. "Rachel? You in there?" It was Tony, my boss, the guy who'd hired me. His voice was calm, but it sent ice down my spine. I didn't answer, didn't breathe. He knocked again. "Open the door, we need to talk." The USB hit 70%. I stared at it, willing it to hurry. He jiggled the handle, hard, like he'd force it if he could. "Rachel, I know you're there," he said, louder now. "You've been poking around. We've got logs of it." My stomach dropped. They'd tracked me, the hack, the breach. I was caught. The USB hit 90%. I gripped it tight, my knuckles white. The door rattled again, then stopped. Silence. Too quiet. I peeked over the desk. The window showed shadows moving, more than one person out there. My mouth went dry. They weren't just checking on me. They were here to stop me. The download finished, 100%, and I yanked the USB out, shoving it into my pocket. I had it, the proof, but now what? I stood, legs shaky, and grabbed a screwdriver from the desk. Not much, but better than nothing. The door beeped again, then a loud bang, like someone kicked it. I backed up, heart racing. They weren't waiting. Another bang, the lock groaned, and I knew I had seconds. I ran to the server rack, flipped open a panel, and yanked a cable. The system crashed, screens going dark. If I couldn't get out with the proof, I'd make sure they couldn't cover it up either. The door burst open. Tony stormed in, red-faced, with that woman in the suit right behind him. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouted, grabbing my arm. I swung the screwdriver, not to hit, just to scare, and he let go, stepping back. I bolted past them, into the hall, my shoes slipping on the tile. The woman yelled something, "Stop her." And I heard more footsteps behind me. I didn't look back, just ran, through the corridors, past the casino floor, toward the employee exit. My lungs burned, my bag bounced against my hip, the USB dug into my leg through my pocket. I hit the door, stumbled into the night, cold air, desert wind, and kept going, disappearing into the dark. They were close. I heard shouts, car engines starting, but I'd made my choice. I had the proof, and I wasn't letting it go. Whatever came next, I'd face it, because I couldn't live with doing nothing anymore. I ran that night, kept running until I couldn't anymore, my legs weak, my lungs burning, collapsing in some alley off the strip where the lights didn't reach. My bag hung off my shoulder, strap torn, and the USB drive was still in my pocket, safe, solid, a reminder of what I'd taken. I'd gotten out, stumbled through the dark, away from the silver oasis, away from Tony and that woman in the suit. Their voices, his shouts, her commands, faded as I'd slipped into the night, the desert wind covering my tracks. No one followed. No cars screeched after me. No footsteps echoed behind. By the time I stopped, shaking against a wall, I realized they hadn't come for me. Maybe they didn't know I'd taken the files. Maybe they didn't care. But I'd escaped, and that was all that mattered. At least, that's what I told myself. I didn't go home, couldn't. My apartment was too close, too tied to the job I'd just torched. I sat there in the alley, catching my breath, until the sky lightened. Gray, then pink. I had some cash, not much, and used it to buy a burner phone at a gas station a few miles out. My hands shook as I dialed my brother in Reno. He answered, sleepy, confused. "Ratch? What's going on?" I didn't explain much, just said I'd quit my job, needed a place to crash. "Come here," he said, no hesitation. "Get on a bus or something." I did, hitched a ride partway, then paid for a ticket with the last of my money. The whole trip, I clutched that USB, my fingers tight around it. It wasn't fear of being caught anymore. It was what was on it, eating at me, growing heavier every mile. I got to Reno by afternoon. My brother met me at the station, his pickup idling. He didn't ask questions at first, just hugged me, drove me to his place. It was small, cluttered, A couch that sagged when I sat down, a kitchen that smelled like burnt toast. I was safe. No one had followed, no one called. My old phone, charged up later, had nothing, no voicemails from Tony, no threats from HR. The casino hadn't tracked me, hadn't even tried, as far as I could tell. Maybe I'd overestimated them. Maybe crashing the system had buried my tracks. But that didn't make it easier. What I'd seen, those files, those names, the way we'd rigged everything, it wouldn't let me go. It sat in my chest, a cold weight, gnawing at me day and night. That evening, I told my brother everything. We sat on his couch, the USB plugged into his laptop, the files spilling out, spreadsheets, videos, that memo. He stared at the screen, his jaw tight. "Ratch, this is messed up. You did this?" I nodded, my throat dry. "Not all of it, but enough." I explained, the machines, the targeting, how I'd tweaked the systems without knowing what it meant. He didn't judge, just listened, his face pale. "You've got proof here, real proof," he said. "What are you gonna do?" I didn't have an answer, not then. The casino wasn't chasing me, no legal threats, no knocks on the door, but the silence didn't help. What I knew, it was too big, too wrong, and it was eating me alive. I'd lost everything, my job, my apartment, my routine. I couldn't go back to Vegas, wouldn't, even if they'd take me. My brother let me stay, gave me the couch, but I couldn't settle. Every night I'd lie there, eyes open, seeing those players' faces, the man with the loose tie, the woman with the purse, losing it all because of me. I'd close my eyes and Tony's laugh would creep in, that woman's voice, calm and sharp. It wasn't guilt over running, it was guilt over staying quiet. I'd gotten out, sure, but I hadn't done anything with it. The USB sat on the coffee table, untouched after that first look, and every time I saw it, my stomach twisted. I couldn't keep this to myself, couldn't carry it alone anymore. I needed to tell someone, anyone. Not just my brother, someone who'd listen, who'd care. The casino might have let me go, might have moved on, but I hadn't. What I'd done, it wasn't over for me. Dee started something by taking those files, and the consequences weren't outside, in their hands. They were inside me, tearing me apart. I had to let it out, had to make it mean something. That's when I decided. I couldn't stay silent. Not anymore. It's been a week since I got to Reno, a week of sleeping on my brother's couch, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. The USB sits on the coffee table still, a little black square that holds more than I can handle. I haven't touched it since we looked at the files that first night, haven't wanted to. But it's there, always in the corner of my eye, a reminder of what I did, what I was part of, back at the Silver Oasis. No one's come after me. No calls from Tony, no emails from HR, nothing. The casino's gone quiet, like I never existed to them. I should feel relieved, safe, maybe. But I don't. What I know, it's still with me, digging into me, and I can't shake it no matter how hard I try. I keep thinking about how it started. Just a job, a paycheck, something to get me out of that rundown apartment. I'd go to work, fix the machines, come home. Simple, steady. I liked it, the routine, the control. I wasn't hurting anyone, at least, that's what I told myself. But then I found those files, the spreadsheets, the videos, the proof we were targeting people, rigging the games to keep them losing. I see their faces now. That man with the loose tie, the woman with the purse clutched tight. They weren't just players, they were people, and I helped take everything from them. My brother asked me once, how many, Ratch? I didn't have a number, didn't want one. But it's a lot, too many. I've changed since then. I can feel it. I don't sleep much, maybe a few hours before I wake up, sweaty, my heart racing. I don't eat like I used to, food tastes wrong, sits heavy. My brother notices, he doesn't say it, but I see him watching me, worried. I'm not the same person who left that small town years ago, full of plans, or even the one who took that casino job, thinking it'd be easy money. I'm quieter now, jumpy. Every time the phone rings, I tense up, even though I know it's not them. They're not coming. They don't need to. What they did, what I did, it's already done the damage. It's in my head, replaying every day, and that's punishment enough. I've thought about destroying it. The USB, the files, all of it. Smash it, burn it, let it go. I could move on, get a new job, start over somewhere far from Vegas. My brother offered to help, said he'd drive me wherever I wanted. But every time I reach for it, my hand stops. I can't do it, can't erase it like it never happened. Those people, the ones we hurt, they don't get to forget. Their lives fell apart, homes lost, families broken, all because of us. I was part of that, not the mastermind, sure, but I turned the screws, kept the machines running. Throwing it away feels like pretending I didn't, and I can't live with that lie. I've asked myself why it hit me so hard, why I couldn't just walk away and leave it behind. I didn't make the rules, didn't pick the targets. I was just a tech, doing my job. But that's the thing. I knew something was off, the payouts, that woman, the secrets, and I kept going. I didn't ask questions when I should have, didn't stop when I could have. That's on me. And now, knowing what it cost, it's like a weight I can't drop. I've lost my job, my home, my old life, but that's nothing compared to what they lost. I got out, they didn't. That's what keeps me up, not fear of getting caught, but knowing I walked away while they couldn't. I don't have all the answers, don't know what's right anymore. Part of me wants to hide, keep this quiet forever. Another part wants to scream it out, tell everyone, make it matter. My brother thinks I should do something, you've got the proof, he says. Use it. Maybe he's right. Maybe I owe that much. I've been carrying this alone too long. It's tearing me up, piece by piece. I can't fix what happened, can't undo my part. But maybe I can stop it from staying silent. Maybe that's the only way I live with it. I've made up my mind. I need to share this. Not for me, for them. I've been sitting here for days, just me, my brother's couch, and this story I've carried too long. The USB is still on the table, untouched since I showed him the files, but it's not silent anymore, not to me. Every time I look at it, I hear those players, their voices, their losses, the lives I helped unravel without even knowing it. I'm done hiding, done letting it eat me up from the inside. That's why I'm telling you this now, all of it, from the moment I took that job at the Silver Oasis to the night I ran with the truth in my pocket. I don't know if you'll hate me for what I did, or if you'll understand why I couldn't stay quiet. But I need you to hear it, because I can't be the only one who knows anymore. It's strange, looking back, how normal it felt at first. I was just a tech, fixing machines, keeping the casino running. I didn't think I was hurting anyone, didn't want to. But I was, we all were, and those files proved it. Names, numbers, people targeted and drained, all planned out like a business deal. I see their faces every night, that man with the loose tie, the woman with the purse. They trusted the games, trusted the system, and we broke them. I broke them. I can't change that, can't give back what they lost. My job's gone, my life in Vegas is over, and I'm starting from scratch here in Reno. But that's nothing compared to what happened to them. I got out, they didn't. I could have kept this to myself, stayed quiet, moved on. No one's looking for me. The casino hasn't called, hasn't sued. They've let me go, like I was never there. Maybe they think I'll disappear. Maybe they're right that I can't prove much without risking everything. But this isn't about them anymore. It's about me, about living with what I know. I've lost sleep, lost weight, lost pieces of myself trying to carry this alone. My brother's been great. He listens, he helps, but it's not enough. I need to let it out. Need someone else to see it, feel it. That's why I'm here, talking to you, because keeping it in was killing me. I don't have some big plan. Don't know if these files will ever see daylight beyond this. I could send them to a reporter, a lawyer, could try to make it right. But right now, I just want you to know, to understand what happened, what I was part of. Maybe you've been to a casino. Maybe you've played a machine, felt that rush. I'm not saying they're all rigged. I don't know that. But I know what I saw, what I did, and it's real. It's not just a story. It's something that happened, something that could happen again, maybe to someone you know, maybe to you. So here's where I'm at. I'm done running from it. I'm telling you this because I trust you with it. Not to judge me, not to fix it, just to listen. I've been alone with this too long, felt it twist me up until I didn't recognize myself. If you've ever carried something heavy, a secret, a mistake, something you can't undo, you get it. You know what it's like to need to let go. I'm not asking for pity. I don't deserve it. I'm asking for you to hear me, and maybe share something back. Have you seen something like this? Felt trapped in a system you didn't understand? Tell me. Write it down below. Let me know I'm not the only one. I don't know what's next, if I'll stay quiet after this or keep pushing. But this right here, this is me taking a step. I'm not alone if you're listening, and neither are you. If this hits you, if it makes you think, say something. Share your story, because maybe one voice, one truth, can change things for me, for them, for someone out there still caught in the game. I'm here. I'm waiting, and I hope you are too.